You know, if SpongeBob doesn't start the fight by calling Aquaman a Mermaid Man imposter, this will all be for nothing. Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and welcome back to another one of my Death Battle prediction videos. And next time on Death Battle, after Dragon Ball Heroes Trunks versus Archie Silver, we have SpongeBob SquarePants from Nickelodeon going up against Aquaman from the Super Friends. Now, before I give any of my other opinions, before I say anything else about this fight, I want to make it clear that I am in full support of this fight happening. I think it's funny, I think it has a really cool dynamic, and I mean that unironically. I just think it's going to be a good time. You know, I like it when Death Battle tries new things, and this is definitely pretty new for them in one way or another. So, you know, I'm in full support of this fight happening. I have no issue with it happening. With that said, though, from my perspective as a Death Battle predictor, I will say it is slightly frustrating that Death Battle is using yet another specific version of a character so soon. You know, a lot of you guys who watch my videos know that I didn't predict the most recent Death Battle, Trunks versus Silver, because I wasn't super familiar with those versions of the characters. And after watching the Death Battle, yeah, I 100%... I'm happy that I did not predict it, because that is just so much information, you know? So I'm very happy that I didn't do that. But now, immediately after, we have another specific version of a character that I'm not overly familiar with. I am aware of the Super Friends, and I am aware of some of the stuff that happens in the show, but it's just not my main source for Aquaman. You know, that should be obvious at this point, right? However, I do believe that it's a little easier to comprehend, you know, when comparing it to, you know, Dragon Ball Heroes or Archie Silver. You guys know what I mean. But in general, yes, it is another specific version of a character, which is a little annoying, just again, from a predictor's perspective, trying to get a good grasp of the characters. But again, I am in full support of this fight happening just as a general rule, and I definitely did not want to not predict this fight right after not predicting the last one. So I'm going to try my best anyway and see what I can make of this fight. This will also probably be a shorter prediction just because, again, for that reason, but also because my time is just being completely eaten up right now, but I'll still make sure to get my thoughts across. So yeah, let's get started. So if I was forced to explain this fight in the quickest way possible, which I kind of am, not gonna lie, I would say that these are two very different kinds of cartoon characters from two very different kinds of cartoons. Obviously, everyone likes to throw around Toon Force, and it is definitely something that should be judged in a versus debate setting. Like, there's no question about that. But the main point I'm trying to make is that not every single character, or not every single cartoon character, has the same level of Toon Force. Aquaman, in this case, is a cartoon character. Super Friends is a cartoon. But like with a lot of other superhero cartoons, Aquaman's powers are mostly defined by his powers and abilities from the comics just being translated into the show. There are exceptions, obviously, but Aquaman in this case is powerful, or has powers, not because of cartoon shenanigans, but because he's a superhero, just in a cartoon setting. SpongeBob SquarePants, on the other hand, is the definition of cartoon shenanigans, and it's basically like Toon Force is basically just turned up to the highest level in basically every regard. You know, the theory of being able to do whatever you want on the fly and being able to survive virtually any assault because you're a cartoon character heavily applies to SpongeBob, and it really doesn't apply to Aquaman in the same way. Now, that's not to say that anyone with Toon Force would beat anyone with more grounded and well-defined powers, at least relatively speaking. That's not to say that that's always the rule, but in this case, based on what I know about the characters, I really don't see much that Aquaman could do to counter Toon Force like that. Now, I don't think I'm going to offend anyone by saying that there's really no way to know how powerful Death Battle is going to scale SpongeBob exactly. Not only is Toon Force kind of hard to quantify with all of his inconsistencies if you're trying to take everything into account, but there are also a lot of varying power levels that people like to place SpongeBob at, and it can get kind of confusing. I will say, though, that SpongeBob definitely has the advantage in terms of versatility if we look at every single thing he's ever done across his whole life, and if we're just limiting Aquaman to what's shown in the Super Friends. And I'm pretty sure Death Battle is primarily going to be doing both of those things. SpongeBob has, stretched and morphed his body in virtually every way imaginable. He's withstood, regenerated from, or even absorbed a vast variety of attacks. He can reform himself from next to nothing. He has limited plot and reality manipulation, duplication, hammer space, water control, his spatula, a crap ton of resistances, and way more abilities that he's shown off than I have time to list right now. He's like just one of the kings of cartoons. If you can think of one crazy ability that one cartoon character has done, chances are SpongeBob has done something very similar to that. He's just been around way too long and has done so many crazy things in cartoon physics. Whereas Aquaman has water control, enhanced stats and senses, his trident, and the ability to communicate with and control undersea and various other animal life. However, I don't think he's going to be able to mind control SpongeBob, as this version of Aquaman does have considerably more trouble controlling more intelligent life, and SpongeBob has also resisted mental manipulation before. And yes, this is the version of Aquaman where he sucks, quote unquote, like that's where the meme came from, the Super Friends cartoon, but in a fight that takes place underwater, I don't see Aquaman not fighting at full capacity, or at least, full capacity for him. You could make the argument that Aquaman is the smarter strategist of the two given his tactical experience, and that he's more skilled as well, but SpongeBob still has his own moments of impressive quick thinking and his own unique skill set, obviously, like, being a karate master of sorts. But regardless, even just with SpongeBob's, wide array of crazy abilities, I don't see that making a huge difference in the long run. But as far as strength, speed, and durability go, it's tough. I know a lot of people like to scale everyone to everyone else nowadays, but it's pretty clear to me that in the Super Friends show, someone like Aquaman is not meant to be on the same level as someone like Superman or Wonder Woman or Darkseid in basically any regard. You'll never see Aquaman doing anything anywhere close to what those characters are doing, and there are even many times where Superman needs to save Aquaman even when Aquaman is underwater. Superman can do some really crazy things, like he can fly at massively faster than light speeds, he can push planets out of orbit, like that's all in the Super Friends show. That's pretty crazy. But to say that Aquaman is somewhat similar to Superman or somewhat comparable to Superman in the comics, and therefore you can say the same about this show, I don't think is really fair. If we're just looking at the Super Friends show as our source, then I don't think Aquaman has enough feats in Super Friends to prove that he can match that level of strength and speed. Maybe there is proof that he actually can, but not from what I've seen. I haven't seen anything that proves that he could be on the same level as someone like Superman, unless we're taking inferences that are already made from the comics. But again, I think it's a little weird to do that. I wouldn't be surprised though if Aquaman does have some kind of faster than light feat, whether it's by dodging a laser or by scaling to some kind of faster than light attack. Just want to throw that out there. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. In terms of SpongeBob though, again, there are a lot of different kinds of feats that Death Battle may or may not think is valid. SpongeBob and other characters have seemingly full control over their movement in physical space, or have even moved in places without a real physical space, which could be a major implication for their speed. SpongeBob once woke up essentially the god of his universe in a comic book and even exited his own comic book, which are not feats too far off from what Death Battle has analyzed before. SpongeBob once unraveled essentially all of reality by pulling on a loose thread on Squidward's shirt. Like, is that something that he can apply to any kind of thing that he does using Toon Force? Like, that level of power? Does he need a loose thread for it? I don't know. I don't know any of that. I don't know how Death Battle is going to interpret that. If that's something he can apply to like anything he does with Toon Force, or if it's just a one-off thing that he could only do one time, And SpongeBob also has various other forms or tools that he's used over the years that I don't know if Death Battle is going to include. Could SpongeBob theoretically just absorb all of the water and leave Aquaman powerless, since he's essentially powerless if he's not in the water? SpongeBob once absorbed enough water to essentially become the moon. Like, he just became the size of the moon and replaced it. So I don't know what Death Battle is going to do with SpongeBob and what they're going to say his stats are. You know, for all I know, they could just put him at a low level that I wouldn't even consider for him. But it seems clear to me that SpongeBob's Toon Force allows him or gives him applications in his strength and speed, or AP and speed and such, that Aquaman simply does not have access to. And that's not even counting, you know, SpongeBob's insane pain tolerance. And with Aquaman living in a world or a cartoon where that Toon Force really isn't present, it's really hard to make an argument for Aquaman being able to outperform SpongeBob or defend against his capabilities. Basically what I'm getting at is that if Death Battle says that any of SpongeBob's ridiculous feats can be applied to a combat setting, which I definitely think a good number of them could given how many there are, a ridiculous number in his canon, then it's just game over at that point. And yes, I know that Toon Force is wildly inconsistent. You can have a character not being able to do something one episode, and then the next episode he does something that's logistically millions of times more impressive. Like, I totally understand that, don't get me wrong. But like with all characters, Death Battle analyzes their combatants at their maximum potential. They're not going to say that in this specific fight, SpongeBob is going to perform worse than the best that he's shown off, or at least in their eyes, because that's not how Death Battle works. And any reasonable maximum that you can attribute to SpongeBob is simply higher than any reasonable maximum that you can attribute to this version of Aquaman. Sure, Aquaman may be more tactically skilled, he may be smarter in some ways, like you could go that route if you really wanted to, but it's not going to be enough to overcome or defend against SpongeBob's ridiculous strength, speed, durability, and abilities that he gets from a side effect of being in his cartoon series. You know, the cartoon medium allows SpongeBob to pull off crazy cartoon shenanigans, whereas Aquaman in this case is a superhero that just so happens to be in a cartoon series. So it doesn't work the same way. And when the character with Toon Force just has better feats and better scaling overall, I really don't see anything Aquaman could do to turn the tables. Maybe I'll get proven wrong. You guys know I'm perfectly fine getting proven wrong. That's totally fine with me. But as of right now, I'm going with SpongeBob. But anyway, guys, that is all I have to say. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. Who do you think is going to win? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, comment your comments down below, subscribe if you could too. That would be amazing. But no matter what you guys do, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.